Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. I'm hoping you guys are all having a fantastic day. So today's upload we'll be going over this kind of remaining phase of this system that is going on across the country right now. And we will be also discussing a potent snowstorm across the northeast. It doesn't seem to be large scale, but small and powerfully, or potentially powerful. So potent is a pretty good word to describe it. And it will be definitely in the next coming days, so not that far out. If you guys want to support this channel, if you like this video, consider checking out the channel, see if it's something you'd like to subscribe to. And if you are a returning viewer, liking the video would be awesome, or just liking the video in general for anyone, new or old. A couple of people have been asking me what's the best way to support me. Watching the video is already more than I could ask for, but if you would really like to get out of your way, I do have a Patreon page, which you could check out in the description below. It's linked, and you can make an account, and it's like a monthly donation of $1 or $2. Again, if that's too much of a hassle for you, I completely understand. Watching the video is already huge for me, so let's get on about this snowstorm. So we've had a lot of action over the last really several days. We had the first wave of this system and second wave, or if you will, a completely different storm, but pretty well tied into the first one, is still going on across Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, Iowa, Missouri. Iowa and Ohio sometimes sounds pretty similar and they slip up. But a lot of ice has fallen. It wasn't a catastrophic system. If you recall, some of the models are showing an inch or two, and I assured you guys that that wouldn't happen. Thankfully, it did not. I mean, that would have been, it was a possibility. It didn't seem likely, and thankfully that never happened. There were some heavy assertions. I keep mispronouncing it, but there were some heavy ice accumulations up to half an inch, maybe in some locations. But again, it wasn't as bad as the models shown. So thankfully, that is that. A lot of has melted the ice since the warm conditions kind of followed. So that was definitely good. But now we have a bit of snow to deal with, and the NAM model is. I just want to show you the NAM model because it does a pretty good job with that second nor'easter potential. Though it hasn't really done the best job with this system, I would say an average, right? It wasn't a miserable fail or a beaming success, but just somewhere in the middle. So notice that right now, this is 1 p.m., so it's a bit out of date. I am recording this as of 5 o'clock, so let's bring it to 5 o'clock. This is what it says it looks like right now. That seems about fair. Into 6, 7, 8. Notice a little bit of rain into Ohio, Indiana, quite a bit of ice still going on across Pennsylvania. Some snow did fall across New York and Connecticut. That will again begin to transition over to sleet, freezing rain, and rain if that hasn't already. Notice that for Chicago, southern Wisconsin, by around 8, 9 p.m. it starts moving away from Missouri and Iowa, the snow right. Then it continues into Illinois and Wisconsin for a few more hours before wrapping up into portions of Michigan. Notice central Michigan again, really also getting some snow out of this, but quickly wrapping up. The southern Canadian area, into the, say, Toronto could be getting some snow out of this, really kind of straddling that freezing line. The northern locations could see quite a bit of snow, southern locations really not that much, closer to the lakes. Montreal, Ottawa, Quebec, definitely seeing some snow. The NAM definitely is an advocate of some heavier amounts. And again, this NAM, I'm going to show you the snowfall amounts. It calculates in the ice as a snowfall measurement, so it will show a lot across these locations where not much will fall. So let's take a look at this. So notice right there, Quebec, Montreal, Ottawa seeing snow into northern Vermont, New Hampshire, and into northern upstate New York. Syracuse, Rochester, really maybe seeing some snow initially, right, but transitioning over to rain. And into a good portion of Maine. I mean, almost getting to the coastal areas, and potentially even getting to the coastal areas if this takes even a slightly southern track. At this point, though, heavier amounts towards further inland. And that is not the nor'easter. That is not the potent one yet. But that could bring a good amount of snow. Notice we do have another storm moving in onto the northwest that will bring quite a bit of rain into Seattle, Oregon, and California, or at least the coastal areas. Further inland, there will be some rain as there is a lack of cold air. But the elevated areas will be seeing that snow into the Grand Tetons, Yellowstone, and much of Idaho. Let's quickly just take a look at the total snowfall. Again, this is the total snowfall including sleet, so this is significantly overdone across right there into Pennsylvania and New York. But let's take a look at the total positive snow change. Illinois, Wisconsin, Iowa, Missouri. I would say 2 to 4 inches is possible, especially where the snow is just beginning to fall. Into Iowa and Missouri, it's really wrapping up, but the snow is falling pretty heavily. Some moderate rates, so an additional few inches is possible. Into Michigan, again, a few inches is possible, and into southern Canada, it does bring quite a bit of snow, potentially even more than what they're showing here. The NAM shows 6 inches plus. I would say that is fair. Maybe isolated higher amounts, as this has overproduced in some areas and in others kind of underproduced. And the main reason for that is where the snow fell. It fell heavy. Where it didn't, nothing fell. It was kind of like that no cutoff, right? So, or there was a cutoff, just a very sharp cutoff. So notice northern Maine, Vermont, New Hampshire seeing the snowfall amounts that are relatively decent, though again, these areas right here may be picking up a half an inch or to an inch of wintry precip before transitioning over to some rainfall. Right, so let's take a look at the future nor'easter that this title has included. So we start seeing this system right here, right, into Indiana, Illinois. Well, that isn't really where the core of the system is. The core is centered across further into Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina. That is a bit of some snow that could reach into central Illinois. So if you're a viewer from southern central Illinois, you may be seeing some snow into late tomorrow. Southern Indiana, southeastern Indiana, Kentucky, Tennessee, not really seeing much out of this as this kind of develops to the north of you. But again, this is not going to be a huge miss out for the areas in Tennessee and Kentucky. It's not a crippling snowstorm. It's not even a significant snowstorm. Mainly a light coating of 1 to possibly 2 inches across Illinois and southern Indiana. It could get heavier if there is a bit more moisture. Putting in the NAM does show a bit more snow, so that could, drop maybe up to 3 inches across central Indiana, Indianapolis, to northern Ohio, Cleveland, maybe picking up on some snowfall. Much of northern Indiana, Detroit possibly seeing some snow out of this according to the NAM, and there is a lot of differentiating still between the models. On how far or how west this band goes. Again, though, even if it does end up hitting your location, shouldn't be too heavy. Where it does begin looking interesting is the northeast. So notice that the NAM shows quite a bit across even downstate New York, into northern New Jersey, Pennsylvania, maybe Philadelphia starting as some snow. The NAM has a cold bias, so probably the snow right here is a bit overdone. But sometimes, last time the NAM did a relatively good job with the nor'easter. It showed high amounts, and that's what ended up happening. And again, it's up to the National Weather Service to decide how they want to take this event. Notice Massachusetts, Connecticut, Rhode Island also seeing a bit of snow. Obviously, further away from the coastal areas, the more will fall as... Look at that. That little low pressure is very, very close to the coast. It's not well developed at this point, but there are some significant winds blowing into Long Island, New York. So say if you live in Long Island, New York City, depends. I don't think you will see a major event out of this. You may see some snow just to the north, though. There may be a bit more snow. And then once it reaches Massachusetts, look at this. It starts developing pretty rapidly, and it actually becomes pretty strong. Now notice, lots of Vermont, New Hampshire, Maine seeing a constant flow of moisture, and this is what makes this system unique. It doesn't just go and whiff by, it sits around for a while. Notice, this is, say, Monday, right? Monday at around 3 p.m., 4 p.m. Eastern Time. For the next 10 hours, if I play this, it doesn't move much, right? It really just sits there. It lags behind, if you will, continues dropping snow to Vermont, New Hampshire, Maine. And again, even if this thing right here got a bit of an extension, right there, right, in terms of that snowfall, New York City would be under that, probably cold enough to see that snow, as now the winds would be blowing kind of from the north. So that would definitely be snow ready. Whether or not there's enough moisture, we'll have to see. That would be able to drop a few inches, though. And let's take a look at these snowfall amounts. Again, the NAM likes to overdo these, so don't really take these into consideration as your forecast. This is just a model prediction. Notice it does show a bit of snow. So again, let's stop it at where today's event ends. So right here, this is today's event again. Let's go back to the top positive snow depth changes. That's the more accurate one. So this is again where we start seeing that light snow band across Indiana, Ohio. I would not be surprised to see some 3-inch amounts, and this will have no problem sticking as it will be relatively chilly. The ratios of the snowfall will be a bit higher than 10-to-1 possibly, but it's going to have no problem sticking. And notice once it moves into Pennsylvania, it has the potential to drop over 6 inches rather quickly. And right here, it really starts cranking it up with a lot of areas seeing over a foot. Now, if we were to zoom in on this, we would see that a lot of the Northeast is covered by the snow, but the further you get to the coast, the further, kind of the line gets drawn really close. So Connecticut's, the northern Connecticut, pretty good. Rhode Island, getting cut in half right there. Boston, New York City, Philadelphia. Um, Further down here, I would say the chances for snow are even less. But all it takes is a little bit downward shift or a different track, and a lot of these locations may be seeing even 3 to 4 inches, which isn't a significant event, but that would be a hassle for sure. And if there was 3 to 4 inches here, I would assume there would be at least enough energy to drop a foot, if not even up to a foot and a half across Maine. And again, as you saw on hour 84 Tuesday, this system is still snowing across Maine, with some locations already approaching a foot, and it's still snowing. So it definitely interesting. It could be one of those events that kind of seems to be going under the radar and ends up overproducing, even as we get towards like the last hours of the system, or hours before kind of the last forecast calling, say 3 to 5. They may end up overproducing, but the National Weather Service thankfully says that they're keeping this under their watch, their radar, as pun intended, as there could be, a moderate to heavy snow. That's what they said across Maine and Vermont offices. Further into Boston, they're less confident, so they avoided those words. So this is just one model. Let's take a look at the NAM 3KM. This model goes out to 60 hours. It is a more high res of the NAM. Again, they do have all a bit of a cold bias, but it's not always something to just excuse it as, oh, cold bias, it's inaccurate. It's only at times. And for nor'easters, if you will, it usually seems to do a pretty good job in NAM models. But again, I'll show you as many models as possible. So this is tonight's system. Notice moving away from Michigan. These colors look pretty dark and enhanced. There could be some moderate snowfall ratios, but a lot of the snow will be kind of mushy and heavy, so it won't accumulate as fluffily. But again, up to 4 inches across Michigan. Detroit getting a bit of snow, nothing too significant. It doesn't seem at this point, especially since it's less than 10 hours out. Or less than 15. Southern Canada does get a bit of snow. Notice this puts Toronto in that heavy snow for a few hours. And a lot of Southern Canada, Maine, Vermont, New Hampshire. So in terms of this first wave, how much snow falls, we could see that total positive snow depth change. That's a more accurate one. You can see 4 or 5 up to half a foot across northern Maine and into Toronto, 1 to 3. And as you further go up the ladder of cities into Toronto, Montreal, Ottawa, and Quebec, we start seeing more and more snow. Again, there will be that band of snow first before this nor'easter occurs across the Ohio Valley. And again, a lot of these amounts here by the NAM 3KM are underrepresented in the total snow depth change, but then again, they're overrepresented by the including sleet. See, like that much snow won't be falling there. Let's try this one right here, the Fourier. That seems a bit more accurate. We'll try this one. All right, so as we push this, notice that band drops up to 3 to 4 inches across much of Indiana into Ohio. The NAM family of models keeps us just south of the Chicago area, and kind of keeps the snow right there. Really more like this. So some models are showing the extent of the snow further up north, some further like south, like the NAM. So that's already a bit of unconfidence. And then obviously, as you get further and further away, especially with phasing and developing of a system, the models get even further, unconfident. And notice that this is what it starts showing through early Monday morning. And taking a look at the radar rain/frozen, we see again a pretty potent area of snow. There could be a bit of a deformation band that forms right here that could drop up to potentially maybe up 5 inches possible, as that could be under the heavier amounts. So again, Detroit kind of just south of your location, but they will get in on some snow, it seems. Central Ohio, Pennsylvania, and notice that the NAM 3KM brings it right on, pretty much splitting New York City. Northern locations seeing snow, southern locations not. And then into Connecticut, most of Connecticut and Rhode Island seeing snow, and into possibly Boston. Again, only takes us through 60 hours. Let's take a glance at some other models. So these models don't go out that far yet. They start showing this little bugger right here. But again, it's not far enough for us to see anything. This may be a bit overdone. That snow seems a bit heavy, but that's possible. So let's take a glance at the RGEM. So this is I prefer this over the NAM models usually, but again, they usually kind of, one model does a better job with another storm, another one does better with a different one. This is what it shows. You can see very heavy snowfall rates potentially with the RGEM already showing that precipitation, and notice it brings it further to the north, this time into Illinois, further into Detroit, maybe into southeastern Wisconsin. Indianapolis and Ohio still see snow out of this regardless, it seems, at least northwestern Ohio. And notice that a lot of snow for rain for Pennsylvania before starting that transition across central and spreading further to the south potentially. The RGM does show a system and quite a bit of snow, not really the coastal areas again, but notice what it does right here. It starts intensifying that low pressure and is just constantly spinning moisture back into Massachusetts, Maine, and it's still not really done at this time frame. And the total snowfall accumulations are rather impressive, up to, well, those are just ridiculous, but I think it does a very good job with the snowfalls across Indiana. These amounts are from tonight, potentially, and into New York, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Massachusetts, Connecticut, Vermont, New Hampshire, Maine. Those amounts, I think, are overdone. To be honest, I don't think there will be really widespread 12 inches plus, but that's by the looks of it right now. I would not be surprised to open up the snowfall reports next week, Wednesday, and see up to 8 inches across some of these locations, as they have a ton of moisture, and it's just a question of whether or not there's enough cold air. I mean, it has abundant moisture from the south, right? The Gulf of Mexico, the Atlantic Ocean. There's a lot of cold air, or cold enough to produce snow, at least into the more northern western areas of New England. So it's definitely something we'll have to monitor. HRDPS only goes out to 48 hours, but notice it does go more heavy on the snowfall amounts with this first one. So I guess what we could do is see which model does the best job with this ongoing wave, and then based off that we could say, oh well, if the HRDPS did a better job, well then let's take its away in more on that new system, right? Unfortunately, this doesn't go out to 48 hours, but it's one of the models that shows heavier snow. Whether that's possible or not, it's possible. Whether it's accurate or not, that's a question. Notice also the southwestern Canadian area is getting tons of snow, as well as northwestern United States, dwindling as you go to the south. But this is the next 48 hours, so really just imminent snowfall. Pretty heavy snow. Take a look at some global models. GFS, right? So the GFS is a very, very well-known model. Notice this is its first snow system. Again, some higher amounts because of the including of the sleet, but this is what it shows from that system. It does bring some snow into New York, Massachusetts, Connecticut, especially western areas of Massachusetts and Connecticut, and southern areas of New York. Notice, though, it really takes a lot of the heavy snow across Maine. Not necessarily New Hampshire or Vermont or Massachusetts, but more of Maine. It does show it just further into Maine and Canada. So that's what it shows. Now, that's the GFS. Let's take a glance at some other models like the GFS Parallel. I don't know if... Okay, it's just loading in. I'll show you on a different website where it's completely loaded in. Canadian model, right? Pretty good model. I really like the Canadian. It does sometimes overproduce things, but notice that it's done a pretty good job with the snow here. It is one of the models that shows heavier snow across the New England. I think that maybe a bit further to the south than we will see the snow. I don't think there will be 5 inches of snow across northern Massachusetts into tonight. But that's what the Canadian shows. Notice, generally similar with the other models, though it's one of the models that pushes the snow further to the north into Illinois, Michigan, Detroit, right? Still good amounts of snow for Indiana and into Ohio, especially northwestern Ohio. And notice, it drops that snow and really starts cranking those amounts up into widespread 2 feet plus, potentially across New Hampshire. Again, possibly overdoing that quite significantly, but at this point it's hard to tell. I just say that just to not cause any overhypeness or panic, if you will. Definitely a possibility. Notice again, this is what it looks like as of early Saturday. This is now Saturday around noon. This is around 6 to 7 p.m. So snow across much of upstate New York, much of New York and into upstate Pennsylvania, if you will. 66 hours out. This is 12 a.m. Monday. You can see snow and into 6 a.m. And again, a lot of models are showing it very close to the coast. If this moves just a further out, that could see the coastal area seeing the snow. But regardless, it spins it out here for a while. Notice like even the high-res models, and continues even backlogging some snow there. Potentially new system also for the coastal areas even further out. So that's interesting. We'll have to monitor that. But definitely a potential for a significant amount of snow for even the coastal areas. At this point, I would say some snow is possible. Not the significant amounts, I would say. Taking a look at the high-res European model, right? So this is the European model, pretty good model, did a really good job with that previous nor'easter, that giant one. Notice what it shows with this one, a lot of snow, a lot of rain, a lot of ice, though again confined to the north and into Maine. Then we have that system dropping that light snow into Illinois, Michigan, Indiana. The European definitely lighter with that first wave than some other models, but eventually it does show this system developing. Now, let me tell you, the first model that was on this, that did the best job in my opinion, was the GFS. The European was a bit delayed. It was reluctant to show the system. Now, whether or not that discredits anything it shows in the future with this system, it's tough to say, but it's just something important to note. That the European was kind of the slower one to catch on to this system. It showed it further off coast, and it's still trying to do that. Notice it spins it, develops it, but into more of Maine and Canada rather than the United States, Boston, the more populated areas. I mean, it still will be affecting the United States. Maine is United States, but the heaviest probably will fall across Canada. And notice in the future, there is still a potential for a nor'easter type system that the Canadian showed. In terms of snowfall, the European is pretty conservative. It does show snow, and it does show the system, which is good. At least it agrees on that part. But again, pretty measly amounts, I mean, to be honest. Maybe up to 4, 5, 3 inches, and versus some of the other models, just to give you a comparison on this website, the Canadian, with the same model run, it showed quite a bit of more snow. Again, look at that, 30 inches, and widespread, 6 inches plus. So more. Whether or not that'll happen, we'll have to see. Kuchera, I don't know what it will show. Might show a bit too high of an amount. Alright, so it keeps it lower. So this may be more realistic as it would be a heavy wet snow. Still, 20 inches potentially in the higher areas. And again, as much as I like the European and how many people like the European, it was not the first model to show this. The GFS, I think, was the first one, and I could show you that actually going back to, say, yesterday, around a day ago, 12 hours ago. It started showing that nor'easter, right? Look at that. It showed that snowfall. It wasn't really as significant as it shows it now, though it did show quite a bit of snow into Maine and New Hampshire. Versus the European at 12 of Thursday, I don't think it showed it, at least. Maybe it did at that point, no. Yeah, it really did not show it, and notice that the amounts have really kind of increased with the European, and it's still more of the more reluctant models. And the Canadian joined the GFS. The GFS parallel, I think, is also showing a similar trend. Though again, these fine details will be the kind of the key here. Whether or not the coastal areas see the snow, even if the storm does end up developing, which again, it's not far out, so the confidence isn't low on this system occurring. It's just on the details as usual. Notice this is what the GFS parallel shows, kind of according to the upgraded GFS model. Focuses more onto eastern portions of Maine, but definitely you could see Massachusetts 6, 7, 8 inches. New York City, again, very close, potentially northern New Jersey, Pennsylvania, upstate New York, into Michigan with that first wave, right? And then that second edition, we could see some more snow into Detroit, northern Indiana, into Illinois. Taking a glance at, I think I wanted to show you one more model. Maybe the her model was it? I have been maybe second guessing myself. We have, I really like these high res models that go out to far distances, but again, this is what they showed that first wave. So again, more leaning towards what the Canadian and HRDPS was showing, the heavier amounts of snow, but it does not really go out far enough to show that the system across the Northeast. It does show that first wave again. 2 to 4 inches across Indianapolis, central Indiana, seems possible. Now into the HER model HRR, 18-hour. Let's go back a few hours, as this is the model run that goes up very far. Notice again, heavier amounts. Whether or not, again, it's not far enough yet to show that system. It does keep it further to the south of Detroit, northern Indiana, and northern Illinois. Still, though, central Indiana seeing widespread 2 to 4 inches. I do want to quickly show you that what is going on right now across the country. We are dealing with our system, right, that is across much of Illinois, Iowa, Wisconsin, still dropping either rain or snow depending on the thermal profiles, which have been just very, very tricky with this system. And this will continue kind of, again, taking that track through Michigan and into the Northeast, eventually exiting through Maine. The snowfall amounts from this system were pretty significant, really, across Oklahoma City. They were expected to see around 2 to 3 inches, maybe 4 to 5, and a lot of these locations got between 6 and 10 inches of snow. I don't know what exactly the official Oklahoma City snowfall report was. I know I see some pretty close reports. I may find it, but yeah, I would say around, half a foot plus. Some locations seeing much higher than that. To Texas, that was a big system, dropped over 2 feet across southern Texas, bordering with Mexico. And then Kansas City got 4.5 inches. That's way more than their whole seasonal total snowfall. So that was pretty good. But again, central Missouri didn't see too much. a bit of snow, and into Iowa, they did get a bit of snow, a bit further west than previously thought, but we'll have to see how things unfold. That is basically it for today's video, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you all guys on the next episode. See ya.